Welcome back to Line Pro Dev. Here we're going to take a deep dive into the world of app development, and today we want to dig a little deeper into venturing into the stage where we dissect what to consider when hiring an app development team. It's a crucial step in your journey towards creating a successful app, so let's dive right in. First of all, you want to understand what your needs are. Before you even get started searching for a development team, it's essential to understand your project's requirements. What features does your app need at the very basic level? What platforms will it run on? For example, iOS, Android, web, or TV. Are there any specific technologies or integrations that are required? And do we have to consider particular market segments, or is there laws around our industry? And do we have to make sure that there are specifics to our users that are not obvious? And have we considered our market segment and our delivery mechanisms for bringing value to the users? So let's say you're developing a finance app, right? And your investors expect robust security features to protect user financial data. Simultaneously, your target audience, predominantly young professionals, demand seamless integrations with banking APIs for transaction tracking, for being able to have quick, easy access to their data, and to apply modern technologies such as facial recognition or voice recognition, or something that makes it so that it's easy for them to verify and to maintain their security, but not to get in the way and trip over each other. So what you want to look for is a team with a proven track record in the particular app development industry that you're looking at. Now, sometimes you may not be able to find the exact kind of experience, but you want to see if they've done similar features, similar tasks, if they have the ability to create products in the relevant technologies, if they know the difference between if it should be a native app, right? Should it be in Swift or Kotlin? Could it be a cross-platform app? Know your timelines and what your investors are looking for and need from this stage of development in order to establish you for future success. And an example would be if your investors emphasizes the importance of a sleek user interface that's going to attract users. Therefore, you need to seek a team with the experience in the UX and design that's evidenced by their past projects with intuitive user interfaces, positive user feedback, and an understanding of your market segment. Look also, it's easy, client testimonials, reviews, past projects. Just get the voice of those out there, see who's been willing to leave reviews, see who's willing to speak up on behalf of the company. And a lot of times we do find ourselves our best clients by referral of mouth, but also a lot of people find us from exactly these kind of recordings and these YouTube where you get to see me, you get to know me. It's important to make sure that your values also match. So the communication techniques and collaboration are going to be huge for success, maybe even more than the reviews and testimonials. There's how do you two talk to each other? Is it smooth communication? Is it hard to understand each other? Right? Even if everything else looks amazing, if you don't communicate well together, reconsider the relationship. And look for clear methods of communication, especially when it comes to project management tools and how you're going to be able to work out challenges, how you're able to visualize the work that's being done, and what process they have to show you work that's done, right? Also, how are they going to perform the quality assurance and testing? Do they have a reliable Q&A team? Do they prioritize this? Do they have the ability to do test-driven development? Does test-driven development make sense in your particular case? Sometimes there's technologies that give 100% very high quality assurance, but they offer low flexibility and make it difficult to change. So what stage of development are you in? Are you doing your MVP? Are you trying to do a prototype? Are you trying to even just validate a concept? See what makes sense and make sure that the people that you're working with, their expectations are aligning with yours and they're able to discuss the importance of how they test versus over or under testing, and make sure you're on the same page. It's easy for both of us, the clients and the developers, to make a lot of assumptions. It's important to talk it out, the difference, and the flexibility. I wouldn't expect an agency to be more flexible than they are intuitively, because they have their reasons for their processes. So you want to make sure that you're a good fit for them also, and they should be open with you and honest that, hey, this is the kind of stuff we do. This is where we make our bread and butter. We're comfortable here. We're not comfortable there. Right. And a lot of times, you'll never know until you ask. Same with any of these questions, right? What's their experience in a particular industry? How do they handle chaos, right? What's their DevOps concepts? How do they make it so that you can scale, right? You have to define all those priorities ahead of time to make sure that you have a good development path going forward, because these are all variables that cost, and you have to adjust what those costs are going to be. You guys know I'm a fan of market analysis and understanding your demographics. So just kind of quickly, one of the biggest demographics we're seeing that are easy to look at is going to include age, location, and preferences for how they use certain kinds of apps. And these preferences, you should expect them to be different for games, for financial apps, for each kind of industry. And within those age demographics, you're going to find different expectations and habits. So identify your market trends and potential niches for your app to see where you're able to take over the market segment, and if there's flexibility and profit in there for you. So an example is an investor that's, as an investor, you might be drawn to a development team that is demonstrating a deep understanding of your target market through detailed market analysis or an experience, and they can provide you with valuable insights into your user demographics and behavior with informed, information-based decisions throughout the development process. And sometimes you make assumptions and you test those out, see how they test that out, see how good they are identifying those trends, and make sure that you understand what they expect for moving forward, and they should understand the flexibility that you have or that you're looking for to making sure this is on track. There's different ways to go about this, and it could be more or less rigid depending on your budget and the risks to making sure that you are on track. Okay, so when we're looking at some recent user demographics, we can see that between the ages of 18 to 24, we're looking at 25% of our user market, app users in mobile web. Now, also from 25 to 34, we're looking at the largest segment, which is 35%. We start to whittle down from 35 to 44 years old at 15%. The next 45 to 54 is the same at 15%, and those over 55 plus are 8-10% there roughly. Okay, and this is just data we get from multiple sources. Business of Apps, Pew Research Center. We also use Statistica to try to find these, make sure we're facing on track. But so when we're looking at different feature preferences, we're going to find that there's kind of measurable value towards those, and how much those are required in that market segment. So when we're looking at financial apps, we see that 40% of the market is looking at financial tracking, 30% are looking for investment tools, 20% of them are looking for budget and savings, and there's a 10% of the industry that's for reports and analysis. A lot of times these are overlapping in similar products, so mix and match and see what your value proposition you're making, and see if it makes sense to dilute it, or does it supportive by adding components to some of these other features or full-fledged features. But really just depends on what you're trying to achieve, the time span you have, and how you're trying to work your way into the market segment. So over the past uh, 6 years, from 2018 to 2023, we found a very consistent growth. We're looking at 5% year over year, starting at 5%. The growth rate from in 2018 was 5%. Then it doubled up at 10%, 15%. 2021, 20%. 2022, we're looking 25%. 2023 was 30%. I'm not sure will this keep going or will there be a kickback on this, but it seems to be a linear approach vector. So scalability and future proofing your concepts. There's a balance between the two, and you want to be cautious on how much you over future proof your project, but you also don't want to sacrifice enough forward thought to have a lot of scalability or flexibility, right? You have to have a balance. So the way I look at it is I want to consider the scalability of my app versus the future development's current needs plus a little bit, like maybe a 25% milestone. All right, so there's the concept of scalability versus or in conjunction with future proofing. They tend to be like a seahorse, right? But they don't totally sit outside each other. So I want to make sure that your team is ensuring that the development can accommodate growth with an evolving technology, but that should be making sure that you have enough features that are going to get you to a usable product that's delighting the user to enough degree that you can plan this usage out for development cycles that take you 10, 25% into the next milestone, right? So consider your base MVP. And if that MVP is a delightable product, but it only has a third of the long-term features that you're looking for, that's okay. It doesn't have to have 90 or 120% of the features that you need to compete in the world. Find those most valuable product points and get to that development stage. And this is an agile process that helps you balance future proofing with scalability and making sure that you're not over delivering in things that aren't satisfying your clients. And when you get to the point that you're ready to start evaluating certain features over others, when you do it in a progressive way, you maintain your flexibility. You can do use case studies, you can do split testing, and see where's the best place to put in your funds. And you can also even just survey your user base and see what they're offering, what they're asking for, whether they're satisfied or unsatisfied, and have a lot of flexibility as long as you're planning in the growth and the future vector of that. Not hard to do. It takes a little bit of thought. And it also takes flexibility to know that what you thought might be the most valuable additional features and supportive features may not be as important as your target audience is going after. And sometimes you have a target audience and sometimes you have an actual audience. And you might be very delighted that the actual audience you have is more supportive than your target audience that you originally thought were going to be your clients end up being. So maintain the scalability and flexibility and go into this in the future. An example of this is your investor envisions like rapid user growth and future expansions post-launch. Therefore, you should be prioritizing the development team capabilities of building in a scalable architecture and adapting to future requirements, such as integrating new functionalities and supporting the increased user traffic. And means you're going to have a system that has autoscalers, that you're using a technology that is probably on the top of the peripheral, so that you can handle change in an environment that's going to be maintaining the top end of the technology. There's the opposite side of this where you have a detailed system, and this system, while having some flexibility requirements, is going to be more strict and not going to provide a lot of flexibility and change. In this system, you may want to use a more established solid technology that is less error prone, right? But also provides enough flexibility where you can change things if need be. There, in this kind of example I'm talking about, the first example that comes right to mind is a native app or hybrid app environment with Flutter, or versus a Laravel kind of web app where you have some more classic technologies that are well established, secured, and safe, and the systems are established in easy development. The long-term development on the second option is going to be cheaper, but it's not going to have that high intensity performance that you would expect from the system that needs to be able to change rapidly and has satisfactory levels of risk in there, and DevOps that can help recover from situations. Different ways to handle risks and procedures. So, on a closing note, I want to make sure that I highlight the importance of hiring the right app development team as a critical decision, and that your ability to communicate with them, to ask them some of the right questions we talked about here, that you early on define the path for your project. You know what features you're looking for, you know what values are important to you, and you create the tech stack, the process moving forward, and the communications systems, and that you plan in the stages of future development and know how that's going to change over time. Because if you're starting off as an MVP, you want to get a quick product out. Maybe testing is the less important thing until you get into people's hands, and then you clean it up. You make sure it's solid. You do your unit testing, and you integrate testing. At this point, once you've established that the concept is viable, and then as you grow into maturity, you start doing Scrum Agile or maybe Extreme Programming Agile, depending on how you set up your testing environments and how flexible you have to be to meet your customers' needs. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward into diving into our next section.